If you are overweight or obese and you are looking to lose weight, then before starting a new diet, let's just talk about some of the fundamentals of weight loss that I started incorporating when I was overweight and wanted to lose weight, and based on everything that I've studied as a weight loss doctor, I guess, before you go in and start trying something new. There are multiple ways to lose weight. There's loads of ways to lose weight, and there is no necessarily right way to do it. But the chances are, if you are still overweight or still obese or have been living with it for a long time, or for a lot of people all your life, the chances are that another diet, a new Slimming World, a new Weight Watchers, a new counting calories, a new keto diet, a new low carb diet, a new low fat diet, a new intermittent fasting, counting sins, the chances are that is very similar, or one of the things that you have tried, and that doing another one of those is not going to work. The stuff that I'm going to go through is not a step-by-step guide. It's not something that you can just, it's not going to give you that warm feeling of, oh, finally I found this thing that's going to suddenly work to get me to lose weight, get me to a healthy weight, and I can just start doing it tomorrow. It's a part of learning. It's a part of learning how to lose weight and what works for you, and actually a behavioral change, because at the end of the day, that is what weight loss is. Divided it into three things. So there's going to be the fundamentals around food, the fundamentals around sleep, and the fundamentals around ease of continuity. And I'll get to what that means and why that's really important in a second. But let's get straight into it. So food. When you pick the meals that you pick, when you pick the foods that you pick, and this is what I mean by, I'm not giving you a meal prep guide. I'm not telling you this is what you eat every single day and then you'll lose weight, because that's what diets do. That's what a lot of different programs do. And I'm not slating those. They work for some people. But if you want to learn what works for you and you want to change your behavior so that you live a certain way, then actually you just need to focus on certain fundamentals that you try and incorporate most of the time, and it allows for mistakes and getting off of it and failing and trying again and adapting. Fundamentals are kind of like the rules behind why you do things, and if you understand that and you keep that in the back of your mind, rather than being like, I'm not allowed to eat this food because I'm on this diet, you actually just know why you're doing what you're doing, and it becomes a lot easier to make decisions, to stick to things, and to kind of get back on the wagon when you fall off. So with food, the main fundamentals of the food that you pick are that they should have, and this is what worked for me, they should have high satiety, and by that we mean fullness. So they should fill you up. They should be relatively low calorie density, and what that means is that they don't have that many calories per volume of food. So the amount of food that you have will be large, and the amount of calories in that large amount of food would be low. Now, a lot of people talk about low calorie density food. The reason why that on its own is not enough, because if you look at the lowest calorie density foods, it will always be things like spinach and kale and leafy greens. And the problem with those foods, there's nothing wrong with them, great, incorporate them in your diet, but they don't have that much in terms of satiety. So they don't fill you up like other foods do. So you want to get a balance. You want to be, and go and watch my video on the foods that I used, that I feel like incorporated all of these fundamentals in my diet, in my lifestyle, to kind of get to a place where I lost weight and can now maintain it without really thinking about it. By all means, go and watch that video, because you can actually start seeing some of the foods that I used, and you can maybe try incorporating those. But it follows these fundamentals. Low calorie density on its own isn't enough, because what people do with that is they reduce the amount they're eating to usually like leafy salads, because that's what everyone says is low calorie density, and oh great, I can eat like a whole salad bowl and I won't, like, there's no calories in it. But that's makes sense, because you think, oh, I need to lose weight, so I'll just eat less calories, and so you have a big bowl of salad and you think that's it, I'll just do this. But it doesn't have the highest level of satiety, and you need to find that balance, because if things aren't filling you up enough, if you eat a salad bowl and then half an hour later you're hungry, you're kind of stuck at square one. And the psychological impact of eating a salad bowl and being hungry an hour later and then like telling yourself, oh, I better have another salad bowl, no one does that. And that's where ease of continuity comes in, which I'll get to in a second. So that's why you have to have satiety and low calorie density. They have to combine. And the last thing with food is you want foods that generally are not continuously spiking insulin. Now, insulin is kind of one of those things that's banded around nowadays as like almost like, oh, like it's like something that is, and we need it to survive. Whenever you eat almost anything, but basically carbohydrates that could convert into glucose in your bloodstream, glucose should not be in your bloodstream. It's dangerous for glucose to be constantly in our bloodstream. So insulin, the function of it is to shuttle that glucose into our cells. It could be muscle cells, it could be fat cells. It's a one-way door from for glucose from the bloodstream into our cells. And so if I gave you a chocolate bar or anything which is essentially high in carbohydrates, you would have a flood. Well, as you digest that food, you have a flood of glucose into your bloodstream. We only hold like a teaspoon of glucose in the whole of our blood. Remember, we have like 5 pints of blood in our body. So you don't hold that. We're not designed to hold that much glucose. And so you need that insulin to come flooding out and put all that glucose into our cells. And that can be really useful if you're about to use all of your muscles and do a really heavy workout or go for a run or do any exercise or just move about in your day. We need glucose. We want it in our cells. We want it in our muscle cells. The danger comes when if we have a continuous supply of glucose into our bloodstream, i.e. from the food that we're eating, then you have a hormone that is getting released that is continuously opening the cells, opening the door for that glucose to go into your cells, and that is a weight gaining mechanism. The other problem with spiking your insulin because of very high glucose is when that glucose comes down, on the route down, if you had a very high spike, then you have a sort of a quick drop. Imagine a very high peak and then a very quick drop. As you are coming down, that crash almost of glucose will get your body to feel like it needs more. So it gives you this like craving for more sweet things. And that's why it's really hard once you start tucking into the chocolates and the sweets and everything. That's why it's really hard to stop. It's not that insulin is this really harmful thing that we just want to avoid completely, but it is sensible to utilize it when we think about the fundamentals and to use it to our advantage. So when I talk about the fundamentals, I'm talking about those three things. Foods that have a balance of low calorie density, but fullness, increased fullness. So reducing your appetite. You don't want to be hungry an hour after you eat because that leads to snacking. And even if you're eating healthy, like you'll see in a lot of my videos, I talk about if you are snacking even on healthy things, that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll lose weight. And foods that aren't going to completely spike your insulin. There's not going to be any surprise to you. I mean, I did a whole video on it, on the foods that I use that I feel balance this, but it's not going to be a shocker. Things like Greek yogurt, things like beans, chickpeas, lentils, eggs, those are the kind of foods that are staple in balancing all of those three things. And I'm not telling you to eat eggs for breakfast and then have lentils and chickpeas for lunch and then a 3-bean chili for dinner. I'm not telling you what to eat, because as I move on next to ease of continuity, you need to be able to work out like a base of what you want to eat and then make your meals out of that. Learn what you respond best to. Oh, Dr. Azeem told me to eat 3-bean chili, but I ate it and felt hungry. Okay, well then that doesn't work for you. So try some sweet potato and see how that works. You need to work that out. You need to learn that. So then you know what works for you. So then you know how to build a base of like 6-7 meals that you can kind of fall back on when you want to lose, well, not when you want to lose weight, just in your life. Because then over time, if you eat that base of meals like 70-80% of the time, over time you will lose weight. And that's what I mean by building and learning the fundamentals of what works for you and incorporating these fundamentals into your daily routine and diet. That's then how you build a lifestyle around eating healthily, rather than, oh, tomorrow I'm following this diet and they're telling me exactly what to eat and I'm just going to eat that forever. Because the reality is, what you're really saying is, I can't be bothered to put in the work to work out myself what works, so I'm just going to follow this, even though deep down you probably know that you're not going to follow it for long enough to lose enough weight, or you're not going to enjoy yourself and you're not going to keep up with it forever. Which swiftly moves me on to ease of continuity. What you do, you need to be able to do forever. And there's nothing wrong with these programs that are like 90-day, 60-day, 75-day, whatever it may be, of like intense hard work and, batten down the hatches, start eating only this, follow these rules. there's nothing wrong per se with those. I mean, they can be really useful for people who are just trying to get back into things or just setting certain goals. But if you're overweight, or especially if you're obese and you have never lost weight before, and you're not just like a little bit out of shape and you're trying to get back into shape, or you're not just a little, they can work as initial ways to get into, to get into like a frame of mind where you feel like you are making changes and you're motivated. But when they run out, which they always will, I mean, they only last like 60 days, 75 days, 90 days. They're not designed to be done forever. So when they finish, what most people find is they just stop and go back to how they were eating. And so whilst there's a place for them, ultimately at the end of them, or even if you do them or don't do them, regardless, at some point you're going to need to understand this fundamental, because you can do a program like 75 hard or something, which you can go look up what that is, but it's essentially 75 days of quite an extreme regime of working out twice a day, eating really healthy, no alcohol, no sugar, no processed food. You can do that, and if you manage to get through the 75 days, great, good for you, well done. But once you finish that 75 days, what are you going to do? Because you can't do it forever. It's not called the 365-day hard. It's not designed to be done forever. It's designed to get you into a frame of mind where you are putting in the work and the effort and you're motivated, and you're in that I'm doing this, achieving sense of achievement, which is great. But when it finishes, you still have to choose a way of living. And that's again what these fundamentals are about. Eating what I just talked about, those foods 80% of the time, means that there is room for error. And it's not a case of, oh, I've failed, today I failed, and so this isn't going to work for me, or I've failed, so I need to start back at day one, because you're going to get into a system of guilt and shame. And if you're obese or really overweight, nothing's going to happen in something's going to happen in 75 days, but not enough. So you need to do something that incorporates a long time, because you've got a long way to go. And there's another element to ease of use. The foods that you eat should be able to provide you with energy and not let you feel too sluggish and too tired. And going back to the fundamentals of eating, the reason why just eating 3 leafy salad greens a day with nothing else, or 1 egg and 1 big salad bowl, the reason why that will absolutely destroy your continuity on that diet is because it doesn't provide you with enough energy. You're going to get tired. You're not eating enough food. You will get tired. Your body will respond by not burning as much energy. You will feel sluggish. Your weight loss will start plateauing. You'll feel miserable and you will give up. So again, the foods that you eat, they have to be able to provide you with energy. They have to be able to provide you with nutrition that supports healthy living, that supports you feeling good about yourself, because it is only so long we can tolerate of feeling rubbish on a diet before we just say, this is not working. And then the last thing is sleep. And that's because sleep is such a fundamental to weight loss, and it's so overly ignored by so many people. And it's a very simple one. I've left it last because there's not much to say about it. If you have really poor sleep, poor duration, poor quality, it is much, 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 much harder to lose weight. All of the research shows this. Like, if you have poor quality sleep, you generally tend to overeat in the following day. You generally tend to eat energy-rich, energy-dense foods. So your typical junk foods, your high-calorie density foods, and again, you will go against the fundamentals that you have planned for yourself. You're again shooting yourself in your foot. If you have formed this base layer of meals that you've made based on the fundamentals, based on the foods that I've talked about, and then you don't get enough sleep, you just one step forward, one step back, because it will be so much harder to eat those foods. You won't have the energy to prepare them. You won't feel like them. And the hormonal response that comes from just poor sleep will just mean that you retain weight easily and you put weight on easily. The simplest way to get started with having better sleep is to just sleep 1 hour earlier, 1.5 hours earlier than you currently do. Just start by doing that, because people focus on the quality of sleep, taking these supplements, not doing this. I've done videos on sleep. I've done the 3-2-1 thing before sleep. So, and you can look at my videos on that. You can look at the video on everything I know about weight loss, where I talked about sleep for a while. The easiest and quickest thing for sleep, just sleep 1.5 hours earlier to start with, because you're going to get more sleep and you have a higher chance of a better quality of sleep. And don't give up after the first night when you can't fall asleep. Surprise, surprise, instantly. You've got to keep going with it. But sleep is fundamental. If you are a night shift worker, or you have newborns, I know it's really, really difficult, and it's not something that I have an instant solution for. You do your best where you can, but where you can, you need to make sure that sleep is a fundamental in your weight loss journey. And if you incorporate all of these things, the food fundamentals that we talked about, high satiety and fullness, low calorie density, not spiking insulin constantly and high throughout the day, picking foods that give you energy, not feeling guilty about following something to the letter, to the T constantly, and getting enough sleep, guess what? You are 80 to 90% of the way there in terms of getting to your goal and being able to do it and changing your behavior and your lifestyle for the long term. Go and check out some of my other videos. Go and look at the videos of the foods that I've incorporated that follow these fundamentals. Go and look at the video that I did on sleep. I hope it helped. I'll see you all very soon.